it really a win for Theresa May?
Well, it was a win of sorts, I think, Belle, given the fact, of course, that the Prime Minister this time yesterday expected to go into Parliament and lose yet again. The fact that she managed to get an amendment that she supported, I bet rather lately, through Parliament is somewhat of a victory, but it is a sign of, in some ways, the dire straits the Prime Minister finds herself in, that she can claim it as a victory. But if you look at some of the front pages of today's papers, certainly a reflection from one of her biggest supporting papers that this was a triumph, Theresa's triumph. On a night of high drama, the Prime Minister wins the key Brexit vote, unites her party, crushes Corbyn and tells EU leaders to do a deal. In saying that, the Times probably slightly more accurate in its reflection. May unites Tories behind fresh talks with Brussels, but EU insists it's not reopened to a deal. So, as I say, I think in part this is a victory for Theresa May, but be in no doubt it is also an incredibly difficult task for the Prime Minister. Ultimately, she has been telling her own MPs and indeed Parliament for the last couple of months that her deal was a good deal and the only deal on the table. In reality, nothing has changed in relations to Brussels. All that has changed is that she's managed to at least unite her party and to a degree Parliament behind a strategy forward. So she's now got more room, a bit more wriggle room to go back to Brussels with somewhat of a mandate and say essentially, well, you know what, actually Parliament will only support my deal if we look at this vexed issue of the Irish backstop again, in the hope that Brussels might well blink first, Belle.
Well, let's talk about that wiggle room there, Darren, because, of course, the EU side came back very quickly and said, no, it will not touch the withdrawal agreement. It will not reopen negotiations on that. So what is May's strategy at this point? What's she hoping she can get?
Well, I think she is hoping to a degree that this vote from Parliament does send a message to Brussels that essentially the backstop is not going to work. Her deal is not going to get through with the backstop in it. I think ultimately, though, in many regards, she simply bought herself a little bit more time. And, of course, the closer we get to that date, many MPs may well be faced with the prospect of a no-deal Brexit, something we know Parliament is definitely not in favour of, because yet again they voted on another amendment to ensure, at least to send a message to government that they do not want a no-deal Brexit. So Theresa May is hoping, in some ways, to continue to count down the clock, that MPs will be faced with the reality of her deal or a no-deal Brexit. But also that, you know, Brussels may well listen to a degree. So it is a high-risk strategy. It is one the Prime Minister herself in Parliament said was, going to be difficult because she recognised there is not an awful lot of support in Parliament for, in Brussels for change. But essentially, she had no prospect of any other way to go on all of this. She is going to meet with Jeremy Corbyn. She has managed to unite her party. And significantly, Belle, also, it was notable that those that want to remain inside the EU, those MPs that support that, well, they couldn't coalesce behind an alternative strategy last night either.